All right, so this is a translation and a discussion of Pliny's letter 616, chapters 6 through 8. So let's go ahead and get started. Having been lifted out from Pharaoh Ferry Tulilatus, and we're describing the cloud, obviously, that he has just spotted, just like with a most long, very long trunk. Velut is the same as ut, is the same as uti, and even is the same as prout, which we will see later on with that ut, which means just like. So having been lifted out, just like with a very long trunk, we're talking about the umbrella pine that it is being compared to, it was being poured out into its height with certain branches, quibus dam ramis. I believe, since having been carried out, weho, wehere, wexi, wectus, a perfect passive participle, again describing the cloud, with a fresh breath, being a fresh blast out of the mountain, then, ablative absolute, with it, meaning the cloud itself, growing old, an inceptive present active participle, having been abandoned, this is describing again the cloud in the nominative case implied, or having been conquered, again a perfect passive participle, wenko, wenkere, wiki, wictus, by its own weight. And so when the cloud blasts up, eventually, obviously, gravity will begin to weigh on it, and its own weight of all of the goop that's in that cloud makes it then spread out. It was vanishing into its width, and so therefore this is when it begins to make that mushroom shape that we are obviously familiar with when we look at an umbrella pine. Nevertheless, sometimes interbum, white, candida, sometimes dirty, it's describing the nature of what the cloud looks like, and mottled, this means patchy or spotty, as it were. Prout. And again, prout is going to be just like it had lifted. Tolla, tollere, sistuli, sublatus. So here we have the sistulerat. It had lifted out earth and or, that's what the way means, or earth or ash. And so it is describing as he, the kind of composition of what it looks like and why it appears white with the smoke, why it appears dirty with all of the ash and other sorts of stuff, and here mottled as in patchy as its appearance to them looking at it. Nevertheless, we assume we imply an est. Remember that the verb, wedea, wedere, weedy, wesus, when you have that wisum, it is going to have a, in the passive sense, a definition of seem. It seemed great, i.e. important, and more closely, it seemed about to be noticed, learned about. Here, it's going to have more so the sense of obligation with the in the e that it is there, must be learned about. So it seemed more closely, must be learned about, this cloud, this event. As ut, whenever you see an ut, you ask is there a subjunctive. If there is not a subjunctive, then obviously it's going to have the translation as to the most learned man. In other words, that somebody who is interested in these sorts of things, who has a curiosity and is educated, like Pliny the Elder, it seemed important and it seemed must be learned about more closely. Nevertheless, as to the most learned fellow, he, referring to Pliny the Elder, orders a little fast boat to be made suitable, a present passive infinitive, opto, optare, and it is where we get the English word apt, which is often in English going to have apt to do something or apt to something, and so in the Latin it's going to have a dative case with it. Often it does not here. So, to be made suitable, he makes an abundance, an opportunity. Copia is the sense here of the opportunity to me if I would want, or if I was wanting. Here it is the protasis of a present contrary to fact, conditional, and the translation is that if the subject was wanting, right, in the present, then the subject would want. And so here, if I was wanting to come together with him, in other words, to come along. Nevertheless, I responded, perfect tense, respondi, that I in the accusative case, and this verb, male, comes from a combination of the word magis, which means more, and then, of course, vele, which means to want. So to want more means to prefer. I responded that I, accusative, preferred, at the same time as respondee, since that is occurring in the past, to study. And so therefore, remember, boys and girls, studying saves lives. Doing your homework saves lives, as Pliny the Younger has told to us. And by chance, he himself had given, do dare dedidatis, that which I was writing. And so therefore, the thing that he, Pliny the Younger, is working on is something that Pliny the Elder, his uncle, who is also going to be his tutor and his greatest teacher, is the one who had given him the assignment. We'll learn in the other letter, 620, that he was working on the historian Livy. And so nevertheless, he was working on the thing that his uncle had given to him, and that's why he responded that he didn't want to go. He preferred to stay there and finish up the homework that had been given to him. So we are back to subject being Pliny the Elder. He goes out, gradior gradi gressus sum. He was going out from the house. And so as he's leaving to depart on that Labernica, the little small speedboat, he receives at that point, as he was going out from the house, he receives little messages. He receives a little letter, a condilicum of Rectina. This is a woman of Tascus, the wife of Tascus. So he receives the little letters of Rectina, the wife of Tascus, the one exterita, terrified by the imminent danger. For her country house was lying underneath, i.e. it is right at the base of the mountain, and nec ulla fuga, and not any escape except by ships. And so essentially what we learn here is that a letter has been sent and is requesting that indeed perhaps he bring a ship and provide her escape and all of her people, her familia, nevertheless, because that is the only way out according to obviously the message that he's received. She was begging orare ut, and this, I am circling, is an indirect command because orabat is a commanding word. She was begging ut that he, Pliny the Elder, grab away her herself, snatch away her herself from so great a disaster. Discrimin is a disaster or calamity or something like that. So to obviously quickly summarize, what we have here is that he is initially going to go and prepare a scientific mission because he wants to check out this phenomenon at closer view. Proprius, it must be learned about, but then he receives this message from Rectina, the wife of Tascus, that obviously she is in aid of him. And so we'll learn in the next chapter that the scientific mission is going to give way, obviously, to a rescue mission. He's going to get different boats and have a different purpose for sailing directly towards the eruption. So make sure you study, make sure you learn the lines, make sure you learn the vocabulary, and good luck.